Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circular Summit. For those of you who are just joining us, my name is Kelsie Stewart. I am the Chief Community Officer here at FabCafe, and I am joining you today from Tokyo, Japan. The session beginning now is our fourth and final session of a four-part series for the Circular Summit hosted by FabCafe and Loftwork. The aim of the Circular Summit is to create a consortium for learning and includes themed talks, open feedback sessions, and rich discussions among internationally and professionally diverse game changers in the circular economy. Our fourth and final session focuses on the topic of system design and natural resources in the circular economy. Mass consumption and production in both the city and the countryside has become a default system for many countries around the world. With the current linear economic model, an unprecedented constraint on natural resources and other resources necessary for human well-being risk becoming inaccessible. Yet at the same time, access to natural resources and the systems built around such access can be transformed. Some bottom-up change makers are taking on this challenge, which the government is most often responsible for. What are the system designs and redesigns available to us to create a more sustainable and even restorative relationship with our natural ecosystem? Our panel will be held in 4 parts. First, we will hear an introduction from 3 of the 19 Circular Award judges. Following a 5-minute break, we will hear a 5-minute pitch from several of the winners of the Circular Awards, telling us about their award-winning work. After hearing from both the judges and the winners, we will have a 20-minute open feedback session where judges and winners can freely comment and discuss each other's works. The fourth and final panel will be a guided crosstalk on the topic of today's session, system design and natural resources in the circular economy, moderated by Cecilia Tham, future synthesist and principal at Futurity Studio. We warmly welcome viewers on YouTube to engage on the YouTube channel. The 4 judges joining us today include Guillaume Charny-Brunet, who is Space10 co-founder and director of strategy, Mariko McTier, who is co-founder and representative director of Social Innovation Japan and co-founder of mymizu, Enrique Lomnitz, who is Isla Urbana's general director, and Cecilia Tham, future synthesist and principal at Futurity Studio. Without further ado, I would like to warmly welcome Guillaume to join us on the stage to give his keynote speech. Guillaume, are you with us?
I am indeed.
Great.
Hi, Kelsie. Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us. You may begin whenever you're ready.
It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm ready. Actually, thank you, Kelsie. I'm super happy to be with you today for the Circular Summit. And thanks for the invitation. I've prepared a little bit of a presentation to tell you a bit about, well, me, Space10, and what we've been up to. Space10 is a research and design lab, and our mission is to create a better everyday life for people and the planet. We're based in Copenhagen. We're about 6 years old. But we make it a habit to not stay within our 4 walls in Copenhagen, and have paid a lot of attention also popping or staying in different locations, like in New Delhi last year for a few months, because we really believe that our research needs to be conducted as close as possible from the realities of the people we want to innovate for and with. Relationship to IKEA is quite special. We only have one client. Space10 is an independent company, but IKEA has bought the exclusivity of our work for a few years, actually, and enabled us to develop a kind of a symbiotic relationship that's pretty unique. The reason we do this is that we do share their passion for home, them being leaders in home furnishing business, but mostly the passion for the home that we share, namely the planet. Our job is to look in and analyze some of the big shifts that are already influencing the lives of the many people, from societal to environmental or technological shifts, and then wonder how will they affect increasingly our lives, and what can we do to create new solutions to either reduce the impact of what we're doing or increase our well-being. Our job with IKEA is also not about incremental solutions. It's really about creating new capabilities, new markets, and new solutions from outside of this big company, but through it. We work with IKEA as it is today, but mostly in that space where we extend what they are known for and also spend a fair amount of time looking at what they could be tomorrow. We do this not alone. We do this with the Space 10 community and a lot of people, a lot of partners that we work with to start identifying the level of business transformation that could be required. We know that we have already entered the most important decades, almost of all times. We already all see the changes that are happening and impacting our lives, the catastrophes all around that seems to be repeating themselves. And when we talk about sustainability, I think one of the questions that, and the point we've reached today, to borrow the words of As Baskargas, is what are we really trying to sustain? Is it the fires, the tornadoes, the mass extinctions? We don't need to be sustainable. What we actually need is to be regenerative. Today, we're talking about circularity, which is one of the most important steps that we can take towards designing out waste out of our extractive logic. But regeneration is another view on things, leaving and worrying about leaving things better than we found them, replenishing and restoring both our environment and our social fabrics. Basically, to keep it very simple, it's how can we help each other, all companies in IKEA, go from an extractive model on which most of our business today have been built towards a more circular model. And down the line, looking at really implementing circular economies around the world and regenerative practices. I think one of the big challenge is to turn from a business model centered views down to this idea of creating model businesses. By model businesses, we mostly intend businesses that at the same time that they generate the necessary profit they need, look at growth as the sum of ecological restoration and social justice that they bring. We don't do this alone. We do this with a fantastic and expanding community of people. And this is because we believe that if we're the smartest person in the room, we're in the wrong room. We therefore operate a bit more like an interface between IKEA and a large team, which gives us an opportunity to look into many different directions. And we've had the privilege of working in fields like vertical farming, autonomous vehicles, digital fabrication, open source design, even architecture or energy. I think one of the questions with the most as an innovation lab is how do we meet the needs of the people within the means of our planet? And to borrow from George Monbiot, despair is the state we fall into when our imagination fails, when we have no stories that describe the present and guide the future. Hopes evaporates. Failure is, in essence, a failure of imagination. A lot of our work is based on actually creating early stage stories in order to go from, I would say, almost bold concepts down the line of finding solutions. So I've selected a couple of projects that I'm at liberty to discuss today. One that relates to food. It came to the realization a few years ago that our needs in food will keep rising, and we're already using most of arable lands, and we are working and eating out of a fundamentally broken food supply chain and food system. In particular, we were struck with this simple example. One hamburger requires more than 2,400 liters of water. And that got us to think, the people we work for, IKEA is known for those meatballs that operate under the very same assumptions. So very early on, we started challenging these preconceptions and looking into alternative protein sources. In particular, looking at a type of agriculture that would enable us to bring production a lot closer from consumptions, in particular in cities. So we started a few years ago, 4 years ago, we started experimenting in our basement in Copenhagen and created a 25 square meter vertical farm in which we started specializing in, and this is the latest version. It looked a lot uglier in the beginning as prototypes, but by the end we were able to produce nearly 8 kilos of grains per week, and that enabled us to start, I would say, exploring even further, because we know that people, when it comes to decisions about what to eat, not to eat, not everyone will make the decision with their hearts or with their brains. We need to tickle their taste buds in order to change really habits. So we started implementing this logic of producing where we serve, and even launched pop-up restaurants in London, where we created also interactions between machines, plants, and kids and people. This has led IKEA to actually make substantial investments in the biggest vertical farms, one of the biggest one in the world, to start creating mobile solutions near to or on the parking of their stores, to start producing some of the salads and lettuce that they serve, and changing, also introducing veggie balls instead of meat-based meatballs, etc. So that was a very interesting journey with a very, I would say, rich type of interactions we have been able to develop with many different partners and clients, etc. We've pushed a bit further and even looked into decarbonizing architecture types and realized what we call GLGDOM, which is infused and works as a giant basically hosting and growing spirulina, a bioreactor in architecture, if you will. We used that spirulina afterwards to create recipes and even challenge another one of their superstar products, namely the hot dog. Ours is called the dogless hot dog and has a lot more iron and protein than its meat counterpart. The bun being infused with spirulina and the filling being made of foods that is grown hyper-locally. We made a book out of it and shared those recipes with the rest of the world. Another example I would like to talk to you about is another project that was done a few years ago as well, where we really were looking into waste and bringing together people that usually don't work together. It's a project we call the Made Again Challenge that actually happened in Barcelona a few years ago, more precisely in a neighborhood called Poblenou, where we did realize with FabCity and with YAC and many other partners, the largest FabCity prototype, and put together different types of fab labs and maker places, woodworking, metalworking stores, and creating this big prototype where materials, people, and machine could work together. We invited amazing people from around the world, work with local talents, makers, engineers. We invited some from the rest of the world, and we also brought 16 of the IKEA designers. And for 5 days together, we actually went on a hunt and found abandoned, wasted furniture. Our idea was during those 5 days to use those technologies, those places, and the maker spirit to recreate things out of those discarded materials. So we worked together in different teams and had a mix of very low-tech and quite high-tech tools at our disposal to treat those discarded materials and try to remake something very interesting out of it. Just one example, but we found, for example, a broken mirror, scanned it, created patterns, and using a CNC and recycled plastic sheets, we're able to recreate materials. This whole exercise led to plenty of super interesting ideas. Bottom line is that we reintroduced what we found in the street back in the street as renewed material and got us to think, I think, in all of our different ways in the importance of creating architecture and rooms and tools for people that usually don't work together to start working together, to create things that might be locally relevant but globally connected. That led us to keep pushing a lot of the envelope and spirit around and down the line of open source design, parametric design, always obsessing about this idea that maybe one day products wouldn't have to travel on one side to the other of the world, but could just be shared digitally and be made locally with sustainable and abundantly available materials. That's the case of this project we call Be Home, that really enabled people to actually customize their product using parametric design, can send an order right away to CNC machine, a router, and then enables people to then take the hive and the Be Home that they've designed to their own specifications. Another example of food producing architecture is this project we call the Grow Room, where we created a little bit of traction, I would say, and started to have people around the world wanted to exhibit this piece, and we thought it really defeated the purpose. So we went back to the drawing board and open sourced the recipe for building such structure. And it's super interesting to see how open sourcing this idea enable us to make it available for many people who started to make their own all around the world. And just like in the software industry, really seeing that every time someone makes it, there's a very big desire to share every single tweaks and every single innovation to make this project a lot more efficient than it ever was when we started with it, adding sensors and technologies, or just looking at the right variety of plants depending on the climate, optimizing the culture principles, working with universities. It's been such an amazing journey working with this project. Today, I'm not so much at liberty to tell you about all that we work with, but this is one of the speculative projects we call Chain of Traceability, where we use different type of digital technologies, including blockchain and augmented reality in that matter, to start identifying what are the materials that made the objects that we live with every day, and looking at how technology might enable us to facilitate the repairing or the transparency, knowing for or giving the possibility for every consumers to actually know where and how this product has been made of, where did all the material originated, what were the conditions in which they were grown, how to potentially repair them and take care of them at the end of life. Those are some of the projects we work on, and I would be so happy to come back, I don't know, sometime next year to tell you about what's cooking these days. But in the meantime, just wanted to end on this beautiful short quote of Gloria Felt, who said, "The path to big systemic change is collective action." And with this in mind, I just wanted to say thank you, and that I really much look forward to discussing with all the participants, the judges, the winners, around this fantastic and important subject that circularity is. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Guillaume, for your really fantastic presentation. I was really inspired by the different points that you were bringing up, and I also look forward to the discussion later. Thank you so much. Okay, the next speaker I would like to call to the Zoom stage is Enrique Lomnitz, the General Director of Isla Urbana. Hello, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, it's very nice to be here. It's wonderful sharing with all of these creative people. I very much enjoyed looking through all of the projects. I run an organization called Isla Urbana. We work with something that is, I think, closely related, although I don't know if precisely exactly circular economy, but I'll tell you guys a little bit about it, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. I'm gonna share my screen now.
Okay.
There, can you guys see?
Yes, looks great, thank you.
So I'm an industrial designer, just as like a little bit of background on myself. I'm from Mexico City. I grew up between Mexico City and the United States, studied industrial design there. And while studying industrial design, I had a very strong, I was studying to be an industrial designer, but I was very clear that I didn't want to produce just kind of objects and products that would be part of the kind of consumer culture stream of, product to landfill kind of stream. And I had a teacher there who gave me, who really opened up my mind as to what design really was. And she emphasized very strongly that the purpose of design was not to make objects. but really to find solutions to problems and hopefully to improve people's lives. And this broader kind of understanding of what design was from what I had back then, which was like a very, very limited, 19-year-old idea of what design was became really, really important to me. I became really interested in this idea of, if the purpose of design is to solve problems, well, let's go out in search of problems. And I was going to school with this other student there who was also from Mexico City, Renata Fenton, and we were both kind of on a similar boat. And so we said, hey, let's go back home, let's go back to Mexico City, and let's look for problems that maybe as designers we might be able to contribute something towards solving. And we found our problems in the peri-urban neighborhoods, the self-built kind of settlements around Mexico City, kind of Mexico City's equivalent of favelas or something, neighborhoods like the one that you can see in this picture, places that were self-built, houses that were informal, lacked kind of tenure or legal titles over the land they were on, where people just over the years, little by little, built up their houses from very, very simple materials, and eventually, over the course of 20 years, would build full houses. And we became really interested in a problem that we saw over and over in these communities, which was related to access to water. So we were in these peri-urban neighborhoods, and we were talking to a lot of people and asking them what kind of problems were most pressing to them in these communities. And people over and over again would talk to us about water access. And we became really interested in this because Mexico City, which is today one of the cities on the sort of 10 cities most likely to run out of water list, according to the Nature Conservancy, a city that has enormous water scarcity issues happening chronically and getting worse and worse. Mexico City started off being a city built in the center of a lake. This picture is a rendering of Tenochtitlan, which is Mexico City as it was when it was discovered by the Spanish in the year, I think 1519. And we became very interested of how a water crisis happens in a city that was built inside of the water, literally, which looked like this, which today looks like this. And we just became really, really interested in the process by which our city had run out of water and what maybe could be done about that. We saw all of these people in these peri-urban neighborhoods having, like a daily struggle around water access and water procurement. But we could see that this wasn't just like an isolated problem that was happening in certain neighborhoods. This is part of like the systemic problem that's happening in Mexico City that has to do with the way that Mexico City drained its lakes, built an infrastructure designed so that the rainfall, the very, very high amounts of rainfall that fall in Mexico City, which used to run into the center and form a lake, now run over asphalted surfaces, go into a sewage system, combine with all of the wastewater of the city, and then get flushed out of the valley into a river that eventually leads out into the ocean. And the process of drying the lakes in order to make the modern Mexico City resulted in this desiccation, which, has the consequence at the very end of the process of people increasingly not having water. And because Mexico City is a city that is running out of water, but also has very high precipitation, Mexico City's water crisis is kind of very paradoxical. No? So this is a picture, Mexico City floods every year. During the rainy season, we have, huge amounts of flooding in vast areas of the city, year in and year out. This is just like a regular occurrence. It's a huge problem that affects, millions of people whose houses flood, while at the same time, and often even in the same areas, clean water access, water for domestic use, drinking water is a huge problem. No? And this is a picture taken in Xochimilco, southern Mexico City, which, incredibly still has, people that have to haul water home because the water infrastructure doesn't reach their houses, or even if they do have water infrastructure, they just don't have water coming out of the grid. And so this very, very kind of simple paradox, a city that floods, a city that's running out of water, made us start thinking about rainwater harvesting. And to what degree could rainwater harvesting, which is, an ancient practice, it's been used forever, but to what degree could this practice really be updated and turned into a strategy to help solve the water access crisis in Mexico City, maybe at the same time even start addressing a little bit of the flooding issue just by making this rainwater that goes into the sewage not go into the sewage and instead go into tanks and storage that people could use. So we became really interested in the idea of how do you get a city like Mexico City to adopt rainwater harvesting, and how could rainwater harvesting start becoming a widespread common practice that eventually maybe could be so normal that you go to somebody's house and they have a rainwater harvesting system in a way that's as kind of normal as having kind of a washing machine or a water boiler. So we decided to rent a little room in one of these very water scarce neighborhoods on the southern edge of Mexico City, and moved into this place and started installing rainwater harvesting systems with our neighbors. And people started joining kind of our team. So a bunch of people started kind of arriving and moving into this little, it's kind of like a little boarding house up on the edge of the city. And this little, initial group started forming, and we started experimenting and exploring with how do you harvest rainwater in the kind of most efficient and kind of well-adapted ways, considering the kinds of architecture, the habits, the culture, how do you try and integrate rainwater harvesting into daily life in Mexico City? So we started prototyping, testing out different kinds of strategies and testing them in real time with our neighbors, trying out an idea, installing it in several houses, giving them follow-up. And over time, we started perfecting the craft and developing technologies that could be better and better suited to these kinds of houses, and that could be easy to install, that could be very easy to use, that could be very long lasting, and that could provide good, high quality water for people to use. So the picture on the top left is like very early stage rainwater harvesting system where we were making filters out of 50-gallon water barrels, evolving over time into more specifically designed components and products that work better and better. The picture on the very bottom right is a rainwater harvesting system installed earlier this year in Guadalajara, in another city in Mexico. And you can see a little bit in the picture, we're getting like super, super high quality water with these very, very simple systems. But one of the really kind of interesting things about, and I think my favorite part about this work is, you could have a product that works and that works very well, but that's not enough. No, for something like rainwater harvesting, the product isn't the objective. It's like going back to what my teacher told us when we were at university. The objective isn't the object. The objective is the results. And in this case, the result is people using these systems to actually improve their own water access. And that means that people need to want to harvest rainwater. They need to learn how to harvest rainwater. This is more of like a practice, and it's something that requires education. And that made it necessary for us to work very, very closely with these communities and really start developing relationships and learning how to co-create rainwater harvesting knowledge and share it with the communities. So the project started becoming very much of a social and education focused project, as well as a technology one. So these are pictures of community meetings in peri-urban neighborhoods where we're calling people interested in starting to harvest rainwater, and they come and sign up to programs and start learning how to harvest rainwater. These are, training sessions and follow-up sessions that we do, really trying to teach every family how to harvest rainwater using best practices. These are pictures of rainwater harvesting program we designed with the government of Mexico City and installed many, many rainwater harvesting systems in several different areas of Mexico City, including some of the last remaining canal districts of what used to be the lake, where we have to get our rainwater harvesting systems on these like little canoes and into houses. But basically this was, this is a project that focused on massification, on trying to install thousands and thousands of rainwater harvesting systems. And this is a program that was designed and built with the government of Mexico City and is now like a constant running program that the city now has as part of its water strategy, both its water resilience and it's just basically water access strategy. This is another project done this year in Guadalajara. That's Mexico's second largest city. And, having done all of this work in Mexico City, we were able to design a program for Guadalajara, which is, even kind of finer tuned. So this is a program that was really interesting because this year, and this is a very climate change related problem, there was a drought in northern Mexico. The drought resulted in one of the main reservoirs that provide water for Guadalajara going completely dry. So this is like a very current climate change kind of crisis. And Guadalajara lost one of its reservoirs. That reservoir provided something like 15% of Guadalajara's water access, of Guadalajara's water supply, sorry. And even just that 15% drop in water into the system made the whole system lose pressure. And so all of the neighborhoods that were up in the hills around didn't get water at all for somewhere between 5 and 6 months this year. So somewhere between March of this year and around September of this year, a huge swath of the city didn't have any water come out of the grid at all. And we were able to install these rainwater harvesting systems very, very quickly. And it was the rainy season, and we'd install these systems, and the next day they'd be full of water, and beautiful, honestly beautiful results in this project. This is a project that has had like 99% adoption rates. Like, we do follow up, and the systems are functioning like perfectly. People have really learned how to use them and are very, very happy with them. Which goes back a little bit to this kind of marriage of the technology on one side and the more kind of subtle education work on the other. These projects are both, the Mexico City and the Guadalajara projects are both kind of urban projects, and these seek to put rainwater harvesting into the urban fabric and make it so that, when it rains, instead of going into the sewage, water fills, cisterns and tanks throughout the city. We're also doing projects now trying to solve the water access crises in very, very rural, remote, and especially in indigenous communities. So these are pictures of projects that we're doing in a very traditional, very remote, very isolated indigenous community in northwestern Mexico, where people have to, walk very long distances and carry their water home. And same kind of thing. We have to develop technologies, in this case, like these big cisterns that are really easy to transport and use and install, and at the same time, work with people of very different culture to kind of teach them how to use these systems. So this is the kind of work that we do, and and the idea is to get rainwater harvesting systems to wherever they're needed, and turn this into part of the fabric of modern cities and societies. And that's it. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much, Enrique, for your very wonderful presentation. I deeply appreciate this main driving point that you mentioned multiple times in your presentation of the product as the objective. I can see through the images in your presentation that people, families, children, mothers, everybody is involved in this project very deeply at a very community level, and it's a very touching project. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks. So from Copenhagen, Denmark with Guillaume, to Mexico City with Enrique. Now we're actually coming to Japan with Mariko. Mariko, McTier, are you here with us today? Hello, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Could you please speak again one more time? I think that you're a little bit quiet.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
My settings. Is that okay?
Yes, we're good. Thank you.
Great.
You may begin your presentation when you're ready.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kelsie, and the whole team for having me here today. It was already very exciting to hear presentations from my fellow judges. And I have to say it was really exciting just to go through all of the applications that came in. It was so hard to find just 5 projects to choose. My name is Mariko. I am a representative director and co-founder of Social Innovation Japan, and one of our flagship initiatives is called mymizu. And I will share a little bit about myself and what we do for your reference today. So as you might guess from my name, I'm actually half Japanese, half British. I grew up in the UK. I've been living here in Japan for just over 7, close to 8 years now. I actually started out my working life as a journalist. So my parents were musicians. I didn't know what I was going to do as a career, but I really was so interested in how the world worked. So I started off working in London as a journalist, covering things like the Eurozone crisis, the Arab Spring, and then obviously some of the biggest issues that we're facing today, such as climate change. And it really taught me just how complex our world is and how there's no black and white. These issues, when you start to look into them, there are so many factors, and one solution might resolve one thing but cause another issue elsewhere. And so it really started to show me the complexity of the systems that we live in. I went on from there to work for the British government, supporting companies, startups, academia, those people who were looking to innovate and solve some of these problems. So, whether it was startups in the UK or here in Japan. And through that work, I started to realize just how much untapped potential there is here in Japan. So, I was working with some really amazing startups and companies, but amongst those, I felt like there was a lot more that we could be doing in Japan. And so I started our organization with 2 good friends of mine to try and get as many people involved in these issues in Japan and start to leverage some of the potential that we have here in Japan. And as part of our work, we have this huge community building element of our work, and we realized just how many people actually want to be a part of creating change. Specifically here in Japan, but I think in many countries around the world, there is a criticism that not enough people are interested in being part of the solution. But I think that just really wasn't true. We would be running workshops with leaders in companies, and they were all looking to say, okay, so what can we do to create a circular economy in our company? We really want to be part of the change, but we don't know how to make it happen. And given that we were, really focused on building community and building the connections between sectors, between individuals, because, ultimately change comes from the individual, we wondered whether we could use the power of that community to create more systemic change. The problem that we focused on was single-use plastic. The reason being, I feel like this is such a emblematic issue that comes down to the overconsumption that we have in our world. And as you may know, Japan and many other countries have a big love of single-use plastic, from bottles, wrapping to, for example, this strawberry that comes in a good 7 layers of plastic packaging just to deliver you 1 strawberry. So we have a bit of a love affair with single-use plastic. And of course, I needn't explain what an impact that has around the world. So we have the impact on our beaches, as well as obviously the carbon, the CO2 that is produced when you create and burn plastic at the end of its life. It is a systemic issue that we are trying to tackle around the world. Now, specifically, when we started to look at PET bottles, we realized just how many are used globally. So you have 1 million being used every minute globally, but specifically in Japan, we actually use 25.2 billion plastic bottles every year in Japan. And that seems such a huge problem. They're like, where do we even start? But the thing is, many of you will have a reusable bottle like this, perhaps in your house. And in principle, you should be able to use this reusable bottle without using those single-use bottles. But of course, as Enrique just mentioned in his presentation, it isn't just about producing a product and saying, here you go, here's a solution. Now you can use it. And the reason why that doesn't work is because we have designed a society in which disposable is great, it's convenient, it's cheap, and it's the best option for many of us out there. So in Japan, for example, you have these convenience stores and what are these called? Vending machines where you can, if you're thirsty, you can just buy a PET bottle in an instant, and it's very cheap and it's very easy. So we have agreed as a society that this is normal. So our mission is to change that. And luckily for us here in Japan, we're very lucky. We are in one of the few countries around the world where you have potable tap water. You can just turn the tap on and you can drink great water. So we thought, what better country to start tackling this idea, start challenging this idea that single use is necessary to stay hydrated. And that's why we launched our platform called mymizu. So our goal is to make refilling the norm. At the core of our work is a platform which has a smartphone app. And what we essentially do is connect people who want to refill their reusable bottles with places that they can do so. So we have a crowdsourced map of places such as public water fountains, restaurants, cafes, hotels, co-working spaces who sign up in order to give people free water. One of the kind of core parts of what we do is not to provide a service. We don't go out there and make water fountains, for example, but we provide the platform for people to contribute information. For example, if you find a public spot, you can add photos and location of those spots. But if you're a shop and a business owner, you can even register your own location to become a refill partner. This in itself is not, we're not using particularly innovative technology, but what we're doing is starting to connect existing infrastructure, saying, look, the means is already out there. All we have to do is start to connect the dots. And then on top of that, if people start to refill, they can also start to see how big an impact this is having on the planet. This is something that we discovered was so important when, you're doing something like refilling. You want to know how much of an impact does that have? Does it even matter? Does my individual action as one individual human have an impact on the planet? So what have we achieved so far? We are very, very excited to have over 1,700 shops, businesses sign up to the platform. A lot of these in Japan, but actually we have places all around the world. We have, famous brands from Audi, IKEA, Blue Bottle Coffee, Patagonia, to soba restaurants in the middle of the countryside. We have a cafe in, for example, Costa Rica, or a co-working space in Germany. So really places around the world who have agreed with the vision that we have and said they wanted to be a part of making it happen. Through the refill tracker I just mentioned, so being able to track how many bottles you've saved, we've saved at least 430,000 bottles from going to waste, although it's probably a lot more than that. That's just the people who have been bothered to track that in the app. And that's about 264 Tokyo Towers worth of bottles for those of you who like to calculate these things, if you put them end to end, or 23 Mount Fujis. We've also estimated that we've saved about 144 tons of CO2 based on some research from Tokyo University on how much CO2 is produced in the life cycle of a PET bottle of water. And that is about the equivalent of driving a car more than 30 times around the world. So even with the small number of users we've had participating in tracking the number of PET bottles they saved, you can see that that has a real tangible impact on the world. Even with our very hacked together simple app, we managed to achieve App Store #1. And that is really because mymizu started to become a movement for everyone else. And I mentioned earlier about our approach to be crowdsourced and co-created. And I think this is really, really part of the core part of our work. So we are in no position, and we're not going to solve the problem of single-use plastic just by saying, look, we have a product or we have a service and we're going to solve this. What we have to do is to provide means for other people to participate and to be part of creating the solution. And that's exactly what we're starting to see. So for example, here you can see, a refill partner, a shop down in Okinawa, that decided they wanted to promote the fact that you could refill in their shop for free. So they're making these massive banners so that everyone in the area knows that this is a thing now and refilling is the way forward. We have this amazing gentleman here in the middle. I had to block out his space, but he added over 100 spots to the refill platform in just a month, taking it upon himself to map his entire area so anyone else in the area could find all of these spots. And here in the bottom corner, we have high schoolers who've been going around convincing shops in their local area that they should be signing up to become a refill spot. So how have we done this? And this harks back to actually a lot of the conversations we've already heard today, but the idea that it's not just an app. So whilst we have created this platform and an app to bring people together, that's really just one of the tools that we use to create change. We're really focused on redesigning the system. And how do we do that? So one component I already mentioned earlier was about co-creation. So here we have our very first refill partner, the first cafe that signed up and said, yes, we want to be part of this. And I think what's been so amazing is to see all of these shops and cafes who've signed up and said, you know what, we might be putting a lot of plastic out in the world, but we can do something. People will say, why would you have places sign up to give water away for free? They don't get paid. What's in it for them? But being part of the solution, being able to play an active role in being part of the solution seems to be a real driving factor for shops and businesses to join the platform. We also do a lot of communications work, so talks, events. We join and also run events ourselves. We collaborate with youth groups, schools, universities, because that's where a lot of the passion for creating change is currently coming out of. We run online events, again, working with schools, university and youth groups, as well as trying to create as many opportunities for community development as possible. So for example, when it's safe to do so, running beach cleans, bringing people together to connect, people that share a vision for what is possible. That's both in beach cleans, but also online. Even, when you walk into a refill partner and you say, hey, I have a reusable bottle, can I please have some water? You're creating a connection there between two people who have agreed that disposable isn't the only option out there and there is a better alternative. We've also worked with partners across industries, and this is certainly when we're talking about creating systemic change, it really just isn't something that you can achieve by yourself, whether you're an under-resourced NGO or a massive corporation or a local government. And our approach has really been to reach out to as many people as possible, or actually have a lot of people reach out to us when we've said, hey, this is what we want to achieve, come do it with us. We've been very lucky to have all of these, from massive brands to local governments, schools, universities, and yeah, just amazing people reaching out and say, hey, let's do this together. And that has enabled even us as a small organization to have an impact that is far beyond our resources. And some examples of that, for example, IKEA here in Japan has 11 stores, I believe. They signed up very early on to say, we're going to promote refilling as the norm for our customers, and they're promoting mymizu as well as refilling in their stores across Japan. We've had collaboration campaigns with the likes of Audi, Nike, really promoting it more as a lifestyle. So it's not just saying, hey, here's an app and you can use it. But it's like, if I'm an Audi driver, if I'm a Nike fan, then actually using a reusable bottle as part of my lifestyle. And here, by the way, is a tool that you can use to promote that. Also working with local governments. So I mentioned these two young high schoolers earlier, but we've been collaborating with local governments to help for them to become a more sustainable city. And I think what's really special about this is that, obviously a local government can often struggle to engage their citizens. And even though they might have a vision for what a sustainable city might be, being able to connect with young people and for the young people to then lead in, bringing people on board, going to shops and businesses and saying, hey, why don't you become part of this network? This is the kind of city that we want to live in, has been really special too. For example, recently we've been running a challenge with a city near Kyoto here in Japan, getting local citizens to participate for 1 month to see how many PET bottles they can save if they collaborate together. For the month of October, I think we're doing it. And it's very, very cool to see families, businesses, local businesses signing up and yeah, just competing, having some fun and seeing if they can change their habits of a lifetime. And finally, really, I think the power of storytelling is often underestimated. But for example, for us, it's really about sharing a vision for what is possible and saying, there is an alternative out there. And we've been very, very lucky to collaborate with media out there who are starting to tell a story that is a little different from what we've seen so far. Ultimately, whilst we've created this platform for people to say goodbye to plastic bottles, that we see as very much the first step. Our goal is not just to have people, use our app or to, get rid of plastic bottles. It's really about what happens beyond that. And I think the biggest thing that we're doing is actually inviting people to be a part of creating a more circular society, whether it's, by refilling their own bottle or introducing this platform to a shop or cafe that they really want to be part of this, or joining the platform themselves and saying, hey, look, we want to be a part of creating this society. I think that's the biggest impact that we're having right now. And I'm super excited and encouraged by all of the amazing applications that I saw in the awards, because I think that's really, really a theme that I'm starting to see a lot more, and very excited to see what will come next. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mariko, for your super fantastic presentation. It's also been my personal pleasure to see your work also with social innovation and plan continuing to inspire people. I've encountered so many people in my work in Tokyo who cite your project, mymizu, as the kind of seed inspiration for them to start their own some social entrepreneurship driven project. So it's been, a great pleasure to see your work being done here in Japan and abroad. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Great. So with this, I would like to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Following this, we're going to be having the pitches from 3 of our Circular Awards winners, followed by a feedback session with the judges and the winners, and then finally having a crosstalk with Cecilia Tham as the moderator. For those of you who are interested, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Feel free to scan this QR code and fill out the survey. We're looking to connect with anybody and everybody who are interested in these topics. If you have a question, if you have some feedback, if you would just like to say hello, please feel free to scan the code and let us know what you think. So we're going to take a 5-minute break and we'll see you shortly. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back from the break. It's my great pleasure to now bring into the chat Lukas Schertel, the CEO of Impossible Materials, who's going to be kicking off our pitch session from the winners of Circular Awards. Lukas, are you here with us?
Yes, and thank you for having me here. And well, we are very honored to be one of the award winners of the Circular Awards. I'll just share my screen. So, yeah, thank you for having us here today. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Impossible Materials. We are a young spin-out company from Cambridge University. And what we're trying to do is to enable businesses to work more towards a circular economy by providing them more sustainable formulation ingredients for their products. And our materials are solely based on cellulose, which is the main component of every plant cell wall. So it's a renewable, recyclable material. So we need to start somewhere really to work towards the circular economy. So the first thing that we want to commercialize is a cellulose-based white pigment. And why is this something, well, that concerns us all and that is also relevant for a circular economy? Well, first of all, white pigments, white is the main dominating color in everyday life. It's from your wall paint behind you to the toothpaste that you use in the morning. It all contains white pigments. It's a $60 billion industry, and it's heavily dominated by one material, which is titanium dioxide. And there are like 10 million tons of this material produced every year worldwide. But this material actually is under increased scrutiny for its toxicity and also for being a threat to the environment. So first of all, it has been classified as being cancerogenic and is therefore banned or facing an EU-wide ban as food additive E171. So it is facing a regulation, but second of all, businesses are really working more and more to formulate greener products. And so they see a plant-based alternative as a strategic opportunity. On top of that, like the titanium dioxide production produces around 50 million tons of CO2 emissions every year, while in principle, the cellulose economy could be, if implemented in the right way, CO2 neutral. So that's so this drive often by consumers for more greener and sustainable ingredients is opening a 10 to 15% market gap. And what we provide is really a cellulose-based white pigment. Cellulose is the main component of every plant cell wall. It's renewable, it's widely available, so it can serve this white market, and it's edible. And our innovation is really to make it brilliant white. And so we will implement or sell our products first in health sensitive sectors for multiple reasons. One is that the regulation is the highest, so in food, pharma, and cosmetics, but also some other sectors like inns are interesting as they're looking for sustainable solutions. And this overall still is quite a big market number, so 1 to 1.5 million tons per year of these materials. And currently, we came from the lab invention, taking that kind of technology really out of the lab to some tests with industries, and now are going into a seed round where we're trying to prove that our material is viable in formulations, while in parallel working on the scaling and getting into a larger adaptive material in industries and therefore in everyone's daily life. And so when we see, how do we see ourselves in this whole circular economy? Well, it goes everywhere from the bio waste to really the product scaling and the product use. We are at the moment more focused on this product development, scaling and processing side, but we already work with partners, and I think it's very crucial in the circular economy to develop a whole circular system to have really bio-waste products as a sourcing material, and then make sure that also the end products is not only containing our green ingredients, but also other degradable ingredients so that it can go back into the bio-waste. And yeah, with this, I hope I could convince you that the future of pigments should be sustainable and should be made of cellulose. And thank you again for having us here, and looking forward for the feedback.
Great. Thank you so much, Lukas, for your presentation. I look forward to talking to you more about this in the feedback session. Next, I would like to introduce Enting Chen from Zhenjiao Water Storing Seedling Pots. Enting, are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Hello, welcome. You may begin your presentation when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just start to share the slides. Can you see the slides now?
Yes, the slides are looking great.
Okay, just one moment, please.
Okay.
Okay, so judges and winners, I'm very happy to be here to introduce to you that to share our company's design, and I'm also very happy to learning more about what people are doing to leave the world a better place to live for future generations. And our company, Zhenjiao, is a social enterprise in Taiwan that aims on accomplish 3 missions: reduce the use of plastic at its source, and use materials which is friendly to health and environment, and also make practical and fashionable products to replace disposable utensils. For Zhenjiao, we think that reducing plastic use is not just a benefit, but also an industry that benefits both human beings and the environment. And the water storage seedling pot is the star among our many products. It is developed by ourselves about 3 years ago, I think, and it is manufactured in Taiwan. For now, it's mostly used around the coastline and mountain areas. The pot itself is made from recycled paper and the biodegradable materials. It not only protects tree saplings and increase their survival rates, but also reduce labor and time cost for tree planting actions. Some people may think, why not just plant the trees directly in the ground? Do we really need an additional pot to plant trees? Well, in most rural areas, the tree saplings may not live as strong as you expected and may end up dying from strong wind or direct sunlight. So, for example, the coastline of southeastern Taiwan has been shrinking at the speed of 3 to 20 meters per year due to industrialization and also groundwater overpumping. So the urgency to build a green Great Wall around the coast region is very important. However, forest cultivation is extremely difficult around the coast due to strong wind or sand drift, salt, and also storm surge. So water supplement is very crucial, especially during the first 3 months of planting the sapling. So the survival rate would drop dramatically if the sapling were lack of water. So the water storing seedling pot is now to the rescue. Let's take a close look on it. There are 4 crucial parts of Zhenjiao seedling pot. The pot basin can store 15 liters of water, and also it can protect tree saplings from strong wind or bad winds. The lid, it collects rainwater with the help of the small holes and the water wall on the surface. And the lid also prevents direct sunlight shedding on the saplings or strong wind impact, thus creating suitable environments for the saplings to live as long as we want it. Then the string is responsible for absorbing water from the pot facing to the roots and ground. And last but not least, the biodegradable coating outside allow the pot to last for about 1 year before the tree sapling is strong enough to grow by itself. And here are the simple steps to plant trees using our seedling pots. First, you have to dig a hole on the ground, and then you put the saplings in space. Then you bury one end of the string and the tree saplings all together in the ground before you put the basin from above. And then you need to pull the other end of the string into the pot basin. Then you cover the soil bag around the pot, fill the basin with water. Finally, you can put the pot lid on top. Then, if you come back in 1 year, you will find a tall tree without any other plastic waste in the soil. So actually, this product has been used in many places now in Taiwan. For example, like some organic agriculture foundations and also many local governments here in Taiwan, like in Jinmen. They also use the seedling pots during forestation works. So I think Zhengzhou water storing seedling pot, it has a string drip irrigation design to transport water to the roots. So the sapling survival rate can actually improve to 70%, and the growth rate is maybe like 2 to 3 times faster. And also this product is very widely used in by other enterprises here in Taiwan, such as Toyota, the car company. So now let me recap the reasons why we think this pot can benefit forestation works greatly. First, it only requires labor for the initial planting action, and it costs much less money and time when planting large quantity of trees. And it also provides solutions to abundant irrigation and weeding labor cost, tap water usage, and also carbon dioxide emissions from irrigation truck transportation. The basin also protects saplings well, and finally, it leaves almost non-pollution to the soil. So we believe that Zhengzhou water storing seedling pots can be the answer for many tree planting organizations around the world, because it is very eco-friendly and also a very useful tool for all kinds of tree species in even badlands. So I think that's all. Thank you very much, and I look forward to striving with you together to contribute to global sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ting, for your presentation. Okay, next, I would like to welcome Shinji Olo of Bagase Upcycle. Shinji, are you here with us?
So it's me, see?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Welcome. Great, you can begin your presentation when you're ready.
Okay. Hi, my name is Shinji Odo. I'm founder and CEO of Bagase Upcycle. Let me introduce our initiative, Creative Circular Economy by Bagase Upcycle. Firstly, let me touch upon Okinawa, where is our main business field. Okinawa is the southern part of Japan and famous as Blue Zone, and we are welcoming 10 million tourists in before COVID. And we have a rich history and culture thanks to our Ryukyu dynasty. And also we are famous as a beautiful ocean. So we located next to Taiwan. To begin with, this is kind of the issue we want to tackle. So our industry is the second largest high burden environmental burden industry, and it's a typical linear economy industry. So we would like to start some initiatives to change the system of the apparel industry from circular to linear to circular. And the inspiration here is that we like to preserve the original landscape of Okinawa, where is the sugarcane farmlands. So Okinawa has the largest sugarcane farmland in Japan. And also transforming, extracting value to creating value in terms of the apparel and the fashion industry. And this is a slide of the potential of bagasse. The bagasse is residue of sugarcane, and we're thinking to upcycling this untapped resources. Let me explain about our ecosystem that we created. We study from the farmers in Okinawa, sugar and connect to sugar factory, and they get the bagasse from the factory and creating fibers and clothes, and providing product as a service model like sharing. And at the end of the life cycle of the product, we collect them and turn into charcoal. And charcoal are put into the farmland as a soil conditioner. And bagasse upcycling is the Karish wear sharing service. The Karish wear is formal wear and the resort wear in Okinawa. And currently, this kind of resort wear is typically we are seeing that one-time use or single-time use from the resort or some business use in Okinawa. Then we want to change the mind of the consumers, not creating waste, but using sharing service of art. And here's 3 key features of our service. One is textile. It's created from the bagasse, so it's pretty Okinawa taste of the textile. And also, we use IoT system to create circularity, and we put NFC tags into each of our shirts and to have a traceability. And also, we connect users to the internet or the database of the supply chain and also the value chain information. Then we're thinking to create the community of this service. And then lastly, the key feature is circularity. As I mentioned, that we're starting from the bagasse, where it's the created in the farmland, and creating product and service. And at the end of the life cycle, we turn into the charcoal and bring back to the farmland. Then now we are trying to construct the circular ecosystem of our service, as well as connecting to the farmland and also some players in the supply chain. So at the end of my presentation, we'd like to promote this service in Okinawa firstly, and hopefully if this service model is accepted, then we would like to introduce this model to other resort area to creating a more sustainable or circular based fashion service. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing about the Kariishi service.
Thank you.
Great. Much appreciated. Next presenting is going to be Ayumi Matsuzaka from Diaper Cycle. Ayumi, are you with us? You can begin to share your screen if you would like, and you can turn on your video and sound. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, in this cycle, who has ever changed baby diapers? The baby diapers, maybe you have it? Yes, you have ever changed baby diapers? Yeah, I'm happy that you changed because you know the amount of diaper waste these small sweet people produce every day. In Germany, 500,000 tons of baby diapers go to incineration plant every day because one baby needs 5,000 diapers before they learn to go to toilet. And in our planet, there is another issue. This is the quality of topsoil. We do not have enough of it, and the existing one is so bad quality. So what if we can connect to these issues, bad soil and the diaper waste? Now the family can contribute to the society by helping to create a good soil. Our solution is to make 100% compostable baby diapers, collect the used one, and then transform this to rich soil, ready to plant fruit trees. We offer a unique product that is made from 100% plant-based and of course compostable material, and then from our local resources. This is all for healthy baby and also improves the soil quality. How does it work? Parents get a zero waste diapering solution for a monthly subscription fee. And fresh inlay, so this is our inlay, fresh inlay are delivered and taken back at the distribution point in the neighborhood. For example, kindergarten or family center, parents bring this used diaper to us. It works because one baby can help to produce 1,000 liters of rich soil every year. You can imagine this is a huge amount of soil. Our business model is quite simple. We sell this diaper inlay to parents, and we sell soil to farmers, tree nurseries, and other people. So I will share what we did this year. This year, we had a successful trial run in partnership with Berlin District, Friedrichshain, and Kreuzberg. We are based in Berlin, in Germany. So parents liked this system because it was so easy to use, and they were so surprised that there were no bad smell. Now the collected inlays are turning into fertile soil with our partner. And we are so excited to use this soil for planting fruit trees in spring. We receive a request from more than 45 places in the world who want to do the same business of diaper cycle in their own communities. They are cities, districts, or kindergarten, or entrepreneurs. So our vision is to bring our system to all these places in the world. We are all passionate to create a good soil. I have a 10 years experience of making a rich soil, hygienic soil out of human expressions. And we have also a team member of engineers and also that behavior trainers and service designers. And our project is a case study of blue economy. It's founded by Gunther Pauli, and so he is a business mentor and ambassador. The diaper cycle is a system change that will not be realized overnight, and we cannot do it alone. So we invite all of you who love this idea to join us and work with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yumi, for your pitch. I really appreciate it. Great, thank you. I would now like to shift into the session of our panel for open feedback from the judges. So if all winners and judges could please turn on their camera and please turn on your microphone. Everybody can join for this session. Okay. Great. Ayumi, you can also join for this session. If you, there we are. Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you so much. Great. It looks like everybody is back. So basically for this panel session, I would like to invite the judges to give feedback and ask questions to the winners in the room today. So first I would like to start with Guillaume. Guillaume, do you have any questions or feedback for the winners of the Circular Awards in the room today?
Yes, many. But first of all, I'd like to thank all of them for the great pitch and the great ideas and a lot of the energy they're sharing with us today and with their communities to make things change. I have a question for Ayumi also, and I'd like to better understand the distributions and the model for shipping out the diapers and for collecting them, and wondering whether your customers today find it convenient enough, or if you're also thinking about another service layer that might increase the level of convenience.
Yes, this is a very good question. Actually, parents really like to meet each other in the neighborhood. So they like to bring this diaper back to the family center or kindergarten, because diaper is just only one interlink product. If they meet each other, they can find babysitter easily. They may change clothes, toys, they can exchange books and so on. And we were very surprised to understand that they like to support each other. So we can, of course, deliver the product, and we can use easily this cargo bike and so on, delivering and picking up. However, this increases the cost. Also, if parents like to meet each other, then why not do that? Let them meet and support each other in a neighborhood community.
Thank you. Enrique, I would like to also call on you as well. I know we have quite a full panel here today, but Enrique, would you like to ask any questions or give feedback to the winners that we have today?
Sure. First off, congratulations to all of you. I think these are really inspiring and very beautiful projects all. Really very interesting. I had a question for Lukas, because I thought that was very, very interesting. I mentioned it in the comments I wrote when I wrote you there, no, like going from like a metal to a plant-based pigment is, I think, just like a really wonderful thing. But I was curious about kind of the durability of it. No, I understand this is kind of a structural pigment. No, if you can this, how long does it last, and under what kind of circumstances can this imaginably be used to replace titanium pigments in many applications, in all applications, or in some selected applications, especially in terms of durability? And I just had that question.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, very good question indeed. So for sure, we are a young company, we're testing that, but what is sure that the durability of the pigment as it is made is quite good. So we have made some lifetime tests, which are going over several years, and also the stability in terms of radiation, so outdoor conditions have been tested, and that's seems to be no problem. Also, one has to account that actually the pigment is within a formulation, so it's not only the pigment that is applied. So that also means that there is a stability brought into that through other ingredients. And then on top of that, we are at the moment really focusing, as I said, on health sensitive sectors, so that there are fast changing consumer goods. So that means that actually, like if you have a toothpaste, if you have like food that's consumed quite well, it has a very different lifetime than something like a paint. So we will also want to expand in that, but for this you have to first scale the production before you actually really can go into these markets. And so yes, the durability is something to be tested, but we're quite convinced that this is not the main issue with the technology solution we're having.
Excellent. Really, congratulations. A very, very exciting product. I'm sure your company is going to do very well.
Yes, thank you so much for the succinct answer, Lukas. I would like to call now on Mariko, if you have any questions or feedback for the other winners, and also any of the judges or winners, if you have a follow-up point, or if you would like to come in from the side to, add something that Mariko or another member mentions, please feel free to join in as well. Mariko?
Yeah, I also have a lot of questions, but I'll limit myself. Actually, maybe if I could ask Shinji from Bagas, so I really loved your whole system really, and how thoughtful you were about really looking at different parts of the life cycle of the product. And I think you've thought about the system in which it lives in as well. And I wondered, I feel like one of the biggest challenges might be getting, your customers or people to accept like a very different, selling a product as a subscription or a product as a service. And I wondered, what reactions you've gotten so far, and whether there's anything you're doing to kind of encourage people to adopt a new way of consuming.
Mariko, thank you very much for your question, and it's also a very good point. And with regards to our service, we just started company this March, so we're kind of baby company, and unfortunately this year we quite hit by the COVID-19, and because of the Okinawa is a tourist island, and it's now say 10 to 20% of before COVID, the number of the tourists. So and also this quite hard moment for us, and tested moment for us to marketing our service now. So we're thinking that this our give us a great opportunity to do get awareness of our service and philosophy or concept of the service. And actually sharing is quite simple service, and it's quite easy to start, but we're secure our competitiveness with our textile, which is the Bagas-based textile, and it's patented. So we're trying to disseminate this service, harnessing this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good luck. I think it may be a challenge, but it's also a really exciting opportunity to kind of make people question how they consume things, and I think you can start to trigger a bigger conversation as well. So very exciting.
Nice. Thank you so much, Mariko. Yeah, something I deeply appreciate about Shinji's idea is that I think that there's a lot to be said about whenever you go to travel and you can experience the fashion in a very deep way. I'm also from a tourist destination, and it's quite sad to see the amount of waste that happens whenever people are traveling because they want to kind of dig deep into the experience of that location, but then in the end they end up not using the the fashion or the things that were toys that they end up buying along the way. Great. So today we're also joined by Cecilia Tham, who is one of the circular judges as well. Cecilia, do you have any questions or feedback that you would like to give to the winners today?
I do. There have been questions and comments to everyone except for Enjing. So I think I'm gonna ask you the question. So I'm curious, because of the 4 that we have seen today, it's the only one that isn't a consumer product or will never arrive to a consumer product. So I'm curious to see what is your plan for, and I think your product is very ingenious. So the question for me is, it's a no-brainer. So how do you get everyone to use this? How do you distribute it? What is your plan, to implement this in large scale, so that this is being applied to in all corners of the world?
Okay, thank you, Cecilia, for the question. Actually, these products we understand that it is not to be used in our daily lives, but somehow because here in Taiwan we're a very little island country, so actually people are gradually begins to aware of that how like coastline is the forest along the coastline is very important to us. And I'm sorry, that's my cat.
No.
Okay.
Love
anyway,
it.
so so these products actually there are many foundations, forestation foundations in Taiwan that they are beginning to be aware of the importance of forestation. So they are beginning to find the how useful this product is. So they will purchase this product from us. And also some enterprises, as I mentioned before, like Toyota, the car company, they have started to raise a program that is called one tree for one car. So as long as one customer buy one car from them, and then they were promised to plant one tree for the customer. So actually, when many enterprises became aware of the importance of tree planting, I think these products will become very useful for any other enterprises along the world. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Great answer. Nice. So at this point, I would actually now like to switch the stage and ask, the winners, do you have any questions or some clarifications that you'd like to hear back from the judges themselves? Of course, we're all connected after this as well, so I'm sure that there's opportunity in the future for longer and deeper discussion one-on-one. But for example, Lukas, you're in my view right now. Would you have any questions that you would like to ask the judges about your work, for example?
Well, not directly. I mean, I was very fascinated by the work, also the presentation from the judges, and I loved especially the work from Space 10. I think this is maybe because it's kind of a bit closer to our side, like working with other big businesses. Like I see you work with IKEA, where we're having similar collaborations with some multinationals. So I mean, it would be just good to learn, like how do you see these multinationals changing more towards a circular driven economy, also in terms of I mean, in terms of they still have to account for the business, it makes sense aspect, right? And so how much is greenwashing and how much is real sustainability or green economy? So maybe it would be interesting to hear your experience there.
Great question.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Lukas, for the presentation and the question. About the greenwashing stuff, I wouldn't venture too far in speaking in terms on behalf of many other corporations. The one I know well, IKEA, actually, I think is far, far, far from perfect, but is one of the good businesses out there. They have a very strong commitment to sustainability, large investment in sustainable energy, renewable energy, forestry management, a lot of thinking around regeneration, all that. So a product like yours and the type of plant-based pigments as opposed to a metal-based pigment is an extremely good idea. As you mentioned earlier, I'm guessing paint. You said paint is a field of expansion that you have not prioritized right now, probably, if I understood well, for questions of scale, because you probably need to prove or establish that your product has the potential you think it has on some other industries. That said, I would really love to connect offline, sorry. I actually made a special note on the when reviewing all applications, asking Kelsie and the Circular Summit team to actually put us in touch. So I'm really glad that you see this. Enrique's questions around durability was super, super good. I had questions myself on the techniques, the process, the complexity, the sourcing, the type of waste material you can use, if any plant-based, for example, agricultural waste, or is it could it be also made of paper? All of those elements have degrees of cellulosis. I think your product is amazing, and I would really like to know a lot more.
You mentioned, I think, one buzzword, it's complexity. So that's the hard part, to get the complexity out of the whole value chain. But I'm very lucky because I'm fully supported by the research group that I've worked in before in Cambridge. And there are a lot of these topics more on a research level accounted for. And I'm trying to implement them in the company more and more as we grow. But yeah, I mean, so you have to start somewhere. We're working on different bio waste sources, but because in principle, every plant contains cellulose, and it's just a question of how you process it to make it work for something like our technology. And so, but then what is, well, highly underestimated, it's not only about the product, but it's also about the processing. I mean, the processing is what makes it then really distinguished from being a green technology or some wasteful technology. And that's where, yeah, you need to then take the whole value chain into account. And we mainly think we can achieve that through collaborations. I mean, that's where we really then think it's most important to collaborate in all directions of the value chain to actually make it happen from the waste source to the end product. And yeah, it's a complex task, and well, that's what I spend my daily life with.
If I might jump into that conversation about complexity, and I think this is one of the issues that we are dealing with in wanting to kind of tackle the systemic problem that we have, because we are talking about, you know, ranging from consumer behaviors to supply chains and productions and, you know, regulations, and these are multi-layered complexities that are beyond, you know, individual solutions. So I'm curious for everyone. This is a question for everyone to know, what are your thoughts about how can we align, how can we, you know, gather all of these solutions and have a focus point, and so that we can create a more coherent, unified approach to an alignment for systemic change in the long run? That's a hard question. And for sure, I don't think there's any singular answer, right? And I think we're definitely kind of all in the search of, like, you know, how do we work together on one hand, collaboration, and on the other hand, how can we create, you know, tools and the environment and contextual kind of understanding for this to be operated under. And I think the recent COP26 agreement is definitely a starting point. But as individuals, as designers, how can we support that systemic change?
I will give one thought, which is, at the risk of oversimplifying, because as you said, it is super complex, but I think one super critical factor is just having a vision for what we're going for. And I think too often we end up talking about a solution or a product and no one is aligned in terms of what we're trying to achieve or the world that we're trying to create. So I think, you know, obviously there are so many other factors to consider, but having that strong vision that is shared between all the stakeholders that you can all work towards is like the fundamental basis for moving. If you don't have that, you're going to end up in different directions and you're going to end up with issues. So yeah, for me, that's probably the starting point.
Yeah.
Maybe
I would
can
even add.
maybe,
Yeah, go ahead, Ayumi.
probably that it's also important for each entrepreneurs to focus what you could do or what I can do, and also work what we have, like to change in the whole system, production line, etc. is really a lot of work. But each of us has opportunities to change even 1 millimeter forward, and this will, of course, affect others. So I guess this is very important for each of us to focus what we could do at this moment in local, maybe with your network and communities. This is very key.
I definitely think that you both have hit the right note, because we need to find ways to align our motivations. And I remember one of my favorite quote, I can't remember who actually said this, so excuse me, but I remember someone said, never fall in love with the product, fall in love with the problem. And so if we all kind of use this as a drive for our motivations to solve the problem, it is definitely a starting point of how we can create this alignment. Yeah, I don't know if the rest of you have any comments on that. Would love to hear from
can I give my opinion? Yep. And yes. From my service, and also I personally think about that the community, the power of the community is the key. And in Japan, it's kind of the momentum of the circular economy is maybe this year or maybe last year. So it's quite a new momentum. And my product, we introduced the concept of the product passport, and it's user able to connect with other users, looking at the value chain of the data. So if you're doing the sustainable fashion, then you can connect to other user of our service on online basis. So and I think it's very important to encourage people to have a little effort towards circularity or some sustainability, and collective those efforts could make a big change. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, on that note, I'm wondering now about one of the things that about system thinking and migrating system thinking to circularities. It forces us to think about the consequences of things and how those how is this going to impact not the immediate consequences, but the subsequent ones as well. And this isn't an exercise that we are often taught to process, right? And so for all the projects we have seen so far, and this is a question for the winners here. I would like to ask you, how have you thought about even unintended consequences that your design might have? Have you think beyond how those might impact? So for example, this is the example that a lot of people use, like self-driving car is great, will have positive consequences in the fact that there will be no more car accidents. But on the negative side, it might take away all the drivers' job in the future, and that will have negative impact. And so I wonder if you have done this exercise in your own project to kind of foresee some of these negative impact that your design might have.
If I may answer this question first.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Because actually, like almost every one of our products, it is not 100% sustainable. But I would like to share a quote from Zero Waste chef in Australia, because it said she says that we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We just need millions of people doing it imperfectly. So actually, I think it also can echo back to this kind of our products that we want to replace single-use plastic. However, it is inevitable that some parts of our products needs a little bit plastic so that it can be used many times over and over again. So I think if we can use that maybe 10 grams or maybe 100 grams of plastic, but we can save more, maybe perhaps 1 million kilograms of plastic, I think it is still worth doing it. So I think maybe sometimes consequences is inevitable, but the action still has some worth in it. Yeah, thank you.
I agree, and I would like to insist that plastic doesn't, the use of plastic doesn't naturally imply that it's bad. It's our intention and our responsibility to it that is bad. So yeah, thank you so much. What about the rest of you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was a very important topic because at the end of the day, it sounds amazing using plant-based materials to replace metal color pigment, but then you also need to think about the scale that you're talking about and the scale of cellulose that you use, which at the end of the day are trees and plants again. So you harvest trees to actually make some green products. And so we have done calculations on that. And for us, luckily, that are reasonable numbers, and we're working towards even improving that by using more bio-waste products than actually trees. But it is, a super, super important topic to think through the whole cycle of the product, because otherwise you implement a whole new industry that then is causing other problems, like a large-scale harvesting of some bio ecosystems or something like this, by replacing, another harming technology. So definitely for us, it was a huge discussion point, early stage, to figure out, does that actually make sense from an economic perspective, from a circular perspective? Yes.
I'm really happy to hear that you have already done calculations of, the amount of, bio waste that you'll be needing in order for that application. And of course, you're going to need to do more in terms of when you do the scaling up. And what about Shinji in your project in Bagase? Because you have a pretty tight loop there.
Yes. Actually, so we're focusing on the sugarcane industry and the bagasse. And the bagasse is, the byproduct. So we don't need to, get virgin bagasse. There's no virgin bagasse. So unlike other example, like using bamboo or some plants, the bagasses have a little bit advantage to resource our basic resources. But on the other hand, doing this project that we are currently facing that another problem, the issues, which is say using pesticides, synthetic pesticides for the farmland. Then we're thinking how to change the more organic basis, non-harmful agriculture. That is kind of more prolonged or extended concept of how we can make more better ecosystem or better initiatives. So we're thinking to more, broader basis, good opportunity. Maybe we can do that, or then it's kind of new initiatives for us.
Wonderful, thank you. What about Ayumi and your project with Daiko?
Well, we didn't see negative sides so far. That's we strictly follow the principle of the blue economy, how we could learn from the nature. And then in nature, there is no bad microorganism or good microorganism. So everything is connected. And we should work with all other species, plants, fungi, microorganisms, algae, and protistas. All these things are existing around us. And then if we work with them, then we can really include their benefit, and we can exchange quite a lot of wide view. So for us, that's we do not fix one problem, but we always include other species from the natures. And in this way, we do not face any negative side. It's actually opposite. We solve more than one problem. So this is exciting.
That is very exciting. I love your project. Absolutely. And that kind of takes me to the next question. We talked a little bit earlier, the conversation between Lukas and Guillaume about scaling up. And so I wonder, how else can we scale up some of these solutions, and not just to other locations, but also even maybe transferring in across different industries, right? And so the recycled diapers is an absorbent materials. Could we think about other industries that could also apply this kind of technologies into absorbing, in other applications? And so I wonder, if anyone have given any thought. This is open to everyone. Given any thoughts about how we could scale up some of these impact?
Yes, so this is very important for us to have business model that is decentralized. So we are based in Berlin, but I'm now visiting France because there is some entrepreneurs who like to do the same business in France. And of course, the nature, well, I don't know to explain, my co-founder is looking at me. The thing is that if somebody, for example, I don't know, in Thailand, who like to start the same business, they don't use the same absorption core. Of course, they have maybe bagasse, maybe sugarcane, bamboo. And what we like to do is to share this business model, and then they should produce the diaper by themselves with their natural resources. So our recipe and their recipe might be different. So what we need is learning network in Asia. Okay, I tested this diaper with bamboo. Oh, in Taiwan, maybe Taiwan is good with bamboo. I don't know. So, and in Japan,
love it.
yeah. So this is the excitement that we do not ship diaper from Germany to Taiwan, but you could produce a diaper with Taiwanese sugarcane or soy. I don't know, this industrial.
I hope you have started diaper PVM already.
So this is a scale up. Of course, that's we do not go like any big corporate who can send easily, but this is not good for circular economy at all. So we need more and more network to learn each other, improve each other. So this is excitement.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I can also imagine, Shinji, that your kind of innovation also could be scaled up and applied in other localities.
So currently we are studying Okinawa locally. Okinawa is one of resort destination of Japan, and initially we're targeting the people in relation to resort or tours. Then we're thinking to expand more ordinary daily use of your fashion in Japan or in other part of world. So currently we're targeting the tourist or something related to resort. But if we could expand more ordinary daily use where people's behavior change to buying clothes to sharing clothes, then it could create more bigger impact than now.
I might get into trouble here, but I'm thinking, hey, Guillaume, maybe Shinji can also talk to IKEA since there's.
I want to talk to everyone. Cecilia, no doubt. So
definitely, maybe a whole entire line local, textile that could be, fabricated in this mechanism via the IKEA channel.
For sure. But I think this conversation is actually amazing. I think if I may just share a couple of thoughts, but we talk about complexity. I think the complexity also comes from the fact that a lot of other and traditional businesses are based on infrastructure that makes their business easy to plug on top of. All of you have in common that none of your businesses, none of your ideas is actually built on capacities that already exist. All of you have to figure out the whole value chain from sourcing to reverse logistics. All of you also have the opportunity of creating value way beyond your own businesses, which is the thing that I absolutely love about circular and regenerative businesses. For example, I don't know, Lukas, maybe one day you'll discover that you can actually extract celluloses from microalgae. They have celluloses. They are the fastest growing organism on Earth. They are super absorbent in carbon. Maybe you create something that is way beyond what you could imagine. Same with Yushinzi. Bagasse has been historically also used to make many things from ceramic to bricks, let's say. But by buying and creating value for something that's usually discarded or burned, you contribute. I don't know if it's the practice in in Japan around bagasse, but many other countries, including India, for example, the consequences for farmers to burn their agricultural waste is catastrophic on air pollution. And figuring out a way and a value chain so we bring value to what used to be regarded as waste is an extraordinary opportunity to add revenue generating streams to farmers that are in absolute needs of those things. So what I find amazing is all these challenges there is about thinking systems, about building those infrastructures so people like you can focus on building businesses on top of something that doesn't exist, maybe, and really create value chains that can scale, maybe not the way we used to see growth, because as you rightfully pointed out, a lot of things is built from the ground up, a lot of things is relevant locally, cannot scale exactly the same way. But here we have other ways to think growth, maybe through the building of blueprints, franchise models like you're doing with diaper cycles, ways to empower other people on the other side of the world to be part of your business without benefiting from your infrastructure, local infrastructure, but all the knowledge that you've created. There's so much value in everything you're doing, way beyond what we all can see today. And I just can't wait to see it blow out of proportion.
Thank you so much, Guillaume, for that really elegant and poignant point. We're starting to reach towards the end of our cross section. So I just want to ask from Enrique and Mariko as well, do you have any other comments or points that you would like to make before we wrap up this session? First, Enrique. And if you have a quick question to one of the members as well, please feel free to ask as well.
Thank you. No, I really like what Mariko said when asked the question kind of about what needs to happen in order for, you know, these kind of circularity concepts in the economy to take hold. And, you know, she said something that's super simple, which is like it begins with intention. I think you could kind of summarize it like that. And I think that that's like it's deceptively simple point, but I think it really is what is at the heart of all of these things. And it's interesting because, you know, like where we put our intention is where, you know, like we start kind of cutting our path, and is not only something that starts defining like our own work, you know, like our work begins, you know, working in these kinds of regenerative projects, it begins definitely with the intention of doing that. But as people start to make an intention and a conscious intention to do things like this, it also starts creating the kind of the normalization of this and like the pressure of this that's necessary so that other people start either being drawn to it or even, you know, in some cases starting to feel like it's not entirely okay to not take into consideration certain things like the whole life cycle of a product or something like that. So I just wanted to kind of re-emphasize what I thought was a very important point of Mariko, that is like, this really is something that begins with our intention, and our intentions go far beyond often like what we ourselves kind of do, no? And they start creating culture, or they start creating norms that then start actually moving the needle on bigger systems. So it's very nice to be sharing with people that are, you know, putting their intentions into this. And I think it's a much richer and also more interesting way of working when you're not just thinking about, you know, how to make a widget and sell it, but you're really thinking about how that thing relates to everything else in the world and how it can have, you know, ramifications and repercussions. So congratulations again to all of the winners and to the fellow judges. It's like an honor to be with you guys. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Enrique. Yes, it's incredibly important to design waste out in many meanings of the phrase. Thank you so much. Mariko, would you like to make some comment or respond to Enrique, ask a question?
There's not much to add. I think both Guillaume and Enrique have been extremely articulate and done an amazing job kind of wrapping things up. But I mean, yeah, just to add, I think what personally I really hope that, these awards in this session today as well will inspire more people to have that intention and to think about what is the problem that they care about and what role can they play in solving it. Ayumi mentioned earlier, we all have a role to play, and that's incredibly important, not to think, oh, I must do exactly what this major corporation is doing, but I'm this like one person. It's about finding your role in this. And so I really wanted to appreciate, the everyone who applied for the awards this time, because they've taken the action and they're actually putting that into practice and, starting on that path towards realizing a vision. So yeah, I was very, very excited to see all the projects coming through. I really hope it inspires more people to follow suit and to come up with their own interesting ways of tackling these problems we face. And as Enrique said, really, enjoying the process and seeing it as, something that you can, enjoy doing. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you, everyone.
Nice. Thank you so much for taking us home, Mariko. I'll also bring up a point that Guillaume has brought into the chat. He mentions design is the first signal of human intention. What is our intention as a species? By William McDonough. It's a very beautiful and poignant point as well. Thank you so much for that. Great. And with this, let's bring that here. I would now like to begin to draw a close. Oh, sorry for that. For today's session. This will be the fourth and final panel for the Circular Summit. It has been my great honor to have you all here today and to hear your incredibly fruitful discussion. I would like to thank the judges and the winners and all FabCafe leaders who have been helping to bring this production to reality. And with this, I would like to draw the summit to a close. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to meeting you all again, either online or offline, and connecting with you in the future in hopes of realizing a more beautiful vision in the future for our planet. Thank you so much.